So Donald Stojack talks to very interesting people. Today, I'm going to talk with Rita Hickman. And Rita and I go a little ways back. It's like going to the endodontist the other day. He says, you were in here 5 years ago. I said, gosh, was it 5 years? It just seemed like yesterday. It's like, but here we are. 5 years goes fast. But for Rita, I think we have been talking together for at least 5 or 6 years, if not more than that. So Rita and I are going to discuss a major segment of the market today. And that segment are women. Okay. Now, so here we go, business owners. If your target audience is men, listen. Okay. Behind every successful man is a very strong and supportive woman. Okay. So if your target audience is men, you got to understand this other side of it as well. Okay. But I'm going to plead ignorance on my side because I have been a man all my life. And I don't have any plans on changing that. And so going on the other side of the fence for me is scary sometimes. And I venture over there and I tread in that water, right? And I tread very, very lightly. But Rita's on that side. As long as I've known Rita, she's been a woman. And she's been all women, okay? And I think she's got some incredible insights. And when it comes to women, I mean, really women in leadership, women in business, what's trending, what's moving and shaking. And so we kind of like to kind of go back and forth on that topic with you guys, if that would be okay. Okay, that makes sense. So who is Rita Hickman?
I don't know. Who do you think I am?
Yeah. you
Well, is it all? I mean, that's the crux of the issue that we're talking about today. At least for me, is how for so long we've projected onto each other who we are. A lot of the health research, a lot. Even it goes down to the story of in many southern countries, the shaman were also women. But because most of the explorers who came were men, they only thought that there were men shaman and they worked a certain way. And there was a whole woman's side that was going on of women helping women or women helping with, more emotional or feminine or physical issues as well. But it wasn't recognized that it worked in a different way. That women want different things. We think differently. We succeed in different ways. We use different parts of our brain for different things. And for a long time, women have lost the connection of women's wisdom of how we come together as community. We come together as supporters of one another. And the more, I've sought out women creators, whether it be Melinda Gates, whether it be Gwyneth Paltrow, whether it be one of my favorites right now is Jill Bolte Taylor. She is a neuroanatomist. She did a TED talk on it about she could follow her experience as she went through her stroke and be able to understand how it processed through. And then her latest book goes through the last 9 years, I guess, of healing herself, plus being aware of how the brain works at the same time. So we have all of these beliefs about how men's brains and women's brains work, how men's nervous systems and women's nervous systems work. But the more research we do, the more we include women in perspectives, the more we study women's leadership, it's a different model. And women are starting to recognize that the messages that they get from male content creators are close, but not quite. Because and that's what got me reaching out to you last week, Donald, was the metaphor that you used. You were trying to explain how emotions drive purchasing behaviors. Is that on point? Yeah.
Yeah, and spot on.
Yeah. And so the example you used was around pizza. And the thought that came up into my mind was, well, no, I'm not starving for a hot, delicious pizza, because I have other things I need to do. And hopefully
Mm.
I'm not eating that shit. You know what I mean? Hopefully I've got a routine in place where I'm making some good choices, and so my thoughts are in an entirely different realm. I'm thinking about family. I'm thinking about, caregiving my parents. I'm thinking about, does my sister have enough money, to get to have a good retirement? I mean, my brain is all over the place on how to take care of everybody and how to make sure that everybody's going to be okay.
Well,
That we don't have as many of the, we've got the same drives. It's just we're focused on something different.
and would you say that the last few years with the pandemic and everything have that caregiving role has been even more a calling point or a deep in the gut type of stuff? How's that playing out? What are you seeing?
Oh yeah. I mean, so people, I've been working with women for healing from narcissistic relationships for about 20 years, including childhood trauma. And it's because I came from several childhood traumas myself
Mm-hmm.
from different areas of my life. And what it does is it starts to add up on your nervous system. And it makes it difficult to stay stable, difficult to stay balanced because my nervous system was always triggered. It was always in a high state of stress. So I pretty much spent my life trying to figure out how to get over that. And in the process have helped women do that for 20 years as well, work on the physical, the mind body piece of healing. And what's happening with the pandemic as there's more stressors on women's systems, um, it's starting to express itself in ways that they wouldn't have before. Women are there's a resurgence of this anger,
Mm.
of this, I'm not doing this again. We went through this once. We're not going there again. And so women are forward thinking of how are we going to get through this, and taking on more and more of the emotional burden and the energetic burden. And it's not because, and the science shows, it's not because men purposely don't give a shit. That's not it at all. It's that there is this misunderstanding between the sexes, between the genders, about how we work physically, mentally, in our brains. And when women start communicating in ways that are more effective, and it doesn't mean that they need to be softer or more compassionate. In fact, women need to be more assertive, because we need to be more clear. We need to be more direct about what we want and what we need, because there's a big gap of ignorance, and that ignorance is causing women more suffering around the world than is necessary. And the
Mm-hmm.
science shows, I especially love the work that Melinda Gates has done, that even in the most indigenous cultures, the smallest cultures, you can go in and you can change paradigms. So the culture doesn't remain as misogynistic or as patriarchal or as divided, because there's an up level in communication about what the real needs are. And women are doing a better job overall in music, in poetry, in literature, in as influencers. They are stepping more into that space, but that's the movement that's coming. I really believe, from everything that I'm seeing, these are the women. I was born in the 70s, a great women's decade, and so I saw what my mother went through. I saw what, the other women I knew went through. And now we're at an age, there's a wave of women who are saying, now I have the resources, now I have enough self-confidence, now I'm stable, my kids are out of the house, and we are going to create real change because now we know how to do it. We're respecting our bodies more. We're respecting what we need and what we want more. And as a result, We're starting to gain more positions of influence. We're starting to have a larger voice, more financial wealth to contribute to the causes that matter the most to us. So there's definitely a wave coming. So that's my monologue.
And so for women in business, and so let's kind of break it down even further. Okay, so
Sure.
let's talk about women in leadership, women in
Yeah,
business.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
there. Okay. From a marketing standpoint, as we're trying to reach them, whether we're going door to door or engaging them online or something like that, what are some of the changing needs or changing subtleties that would help us, maybe get it back away from our generic assumptions and getting more specific? What is trending? What's the research showing us?
The research is showing that the trend has been for a while transparency.
Hmm.
There's a feeling of being overwhelmed by so much, not just me, but all women. We're constantly researching, trying to find the right answer. We're exposing ourselves to all of these lines of information, and we're going even more towards what do our friends say,
Hmm.
trusting less and less somebody telling us something, and more our due diligence. We're asking our friends, we're connecting in with our communities and resources. And so if someone wants to be successful in a women's market, they need to be involved. They need to have women behind them. They need to have women's support, because they'll be the entree into these communities. And um, if if a man wants to be more involved in those communities, he'll be very successful if he's sincerely curious and opens his ears.
I want to kind of maybe highlight that because number one, I love the word curious. And I worked with Chet Holmes. I mean, he would grind in us the different C's: curiosity and being clever and being compassionate and all that stuff. And it just, I just can hear his voice on that stuff. But when you say curious, and then sincerely curious, and so and I always tell people, it's the energy behind what you do, not so much it's what you do, but you got to make sure that your energy is pure around it. As a top tier marketer and sales type of person, it's not the questions I ask, it's my energy, it's my sincerity, it's my right. It's that
And
level
women
of
can feel it, because our hearts, not just our hearts, every human heart gives off measurable wavelengths. And when you're in a period
Mhm.
of stress, the wavelengths only go about 2 feet. When you're in a state of flow, they don't have
Mm.
instruments far enough yet to measure how far your message can go. And so it's really about getting into the flow of things, by listening, waiting, pausing, like jumping rope. You have to get into the rhythm, get into the communication of what's happening. And then they'll tell you straight out what they want. And if you listen without any judgmentalism, without any, no, you must be wrong, or it's just you, or any mansplaining about what women are really thinking and feeling, you know, if you're a nice guy with good questions, women are going to flock to you like you were the last Cheeto on the beach for a seagull.
And
You know,
I want to kind of maybe go a little bit sideways on that too, because when you talk about the bubble of energy, and we used to kind of that was like kind of way out there, like you say, the science is showing this. There's this, all of us, we have this bubble of energy. It's just whatever, and like even here on Zoom, we can reach across the continents in that bubble. And being conscious of that, like if you got a nervous rattle inside of you, you're gonna, no matter what smile you try to make, it's gonna come across. But it's interesting is I'm a horse owner this year, and this has been a new experience for me. And I would encourage everybody in your life, no matter where you are, try a new experience, whatever that is, because boy, does it bring you to your roots, right? And I've got a female horse, right? And right. But now I've understood, Rita, like the research and the science shows that for horses, that bubble goes even further. Because this girl, she feels me like when I'm driving down the driveway to the barn. I mean, it's like my daughter will be at the barn. She says, "Oh my gosh, that she knew when you turned in from the road, her ears." And you're kidding, right? And it's just like,
Right. Right.
whoa,
Horses are super empathic because they're a herd
yeah,
animal. And so, many women are attracted to horses because it's that deeper emotional, intuitive level. But yes, if you can kind of compare the sensitivity of a horse is similar to the higher sensitivity of a woman. And so it doesn't matter as much, or higher sensitivity men. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of
mhm,
everybody. There's just a tendency.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter as much what someone says. What matters is how they legitimately feel inside of themselves. And if they feel like a safe, trustworthy, loving, but
mhm,
successful and confident and interesting human being, that's what is going to attract someone wanting to work with them, someone wanting to get to, a woman wanting to get to know more. But we can feel the insecurities, we can feel the things that are going on, and then we create stories as to what it means. But in
mhm.
reality, it's our spidey senses telling us something is going on, and then having to ask a few more questions as to what do they really mean? What do they really want? Is this right for me? But if we've got trauma on our system, we tend to keep creating the same bad patterns because we're trying to figure it out.
So very from a tactical sense, and this is, and some of us know this kind of intrinsically, some of us in our work, we've been doing this, okay? But sometimes we need to be reminded as well, as much as that. When I train people, they say, well, tell me what to say, right? And yeah, I got to tell you what to say, but more important than what you say is how how do you feel? Right? It's like, how are you
Mhm.
feeling inside today? And it was interesting. One of the other calls this week that I had with the group, we landed on the word joy. And I said, oh, there it is, isn't it? I says, for each of us. So as we're trying to connect with our marketplace, um, as we're trying to reach out through social media or direct mail or email or whatever, right? In an in-person event, we're walking down the street. Are we feeling joy? So for each of you, what I would challenge you, and it's interesting, in our house, we always have this word of the year. And last year, our word, no, oh gosh, no, time goes so fast. 2 years ago, the word was joy, right? And we have it written on this chalkboard. And my wife had always keep asking me, is this bringing you joy? And remember that gal that had the book about getting rid of stuff? If this thing doesn't give you joy, get rid of it. It kind of was spurned from that. But know what gives you joy. So, when I say that, each of you should like immediately know what it is. I mean, I know for myself what it is. What brings me joy, right? I walk out to my chickens between calls. I mean, I go out to my chickens. If I have a bad call, I go out and talk to my chickens. If I have a good call, I go out and talk to my chickens. That makes sense. What brings you joy? Fresh cut flowers, certain smells, right? An activity, a good pour of a single malt scotch, a 15-year Lagavulin or something like that. If you know that stuff, right? You know what that is, right? Your favorite restaurant, the favorite piece of clothing. What brings you joy? Taking your shoes off, right?
What's interesting, because a lot of women know this. The problem is that they don't believe they deserve to take the time yet,
Oh,
because they have other priorities which are more important than their mental and emotional health. And
hmm.
everybody's taking little bites out of their time like little piranhas. And so by the time they have 5 minutes left, they're so exhausted that there's nothing left for self-care.
So step one, very tactically, is pay yourself first, reward yourself first. When you go on the airplane, if you ever pay attention, we don't kind of tune it out after a while if you fly a lot, those instructions, they always say when the mask comes down, they don't say, hey, help everybody around you and then put your mask on. What do they say? They have to remind us over and over and over again. Put your mask on.
natural, yeah, it's our
Arse.
natural desire to
Yeah.
help. And also we've kind of been culturally, molded to believe that we'll be good women if we sacrifice and we suffer for other people. And we've lost some of that women's magic of where we come together as communities, we come
Mhm.
together as women and support one another because
Mhm.
we've been trying to survive.
Mhm.
And the model that we have in the media for success tends to be a white male, and we have to actively have the time to seek out other voices, women's voices that talk about how they succeeded, how they worked, because it's significantly different in many ways. And
Yeah.
so women keep trying to succeed in ways that don't quite, shoes that don't quite fit. And there just hasn't been enough out there in the popular media within, within the women's friendships and all of that to get us stable and lift us up out of this reactionary overwhelmed state. And the pandemic just made it worse, the
Mhm.
isolation. And so women who were smart, they said, oh, I'm going to get together with my communities. Women who were still working through things or overwhelmed or had survival, they just went further down the toilet, until you hit a place where you say, I'm not going to live like this anymore. And then you make a choice, good or bad, how you're going to, decide what you're going to do next.
Mhm. Excellent stuff. Does that help anybody out? Is this giving you some insight, maybe reminding you stuff you already know? Maybe validation of what you're already doing. You hope for some of you, this is some good validation. Yeah, that I'm on the right track with everything and like that. Any questions, insights, any sideway track you want to kind of go on that?
Tony's got a question. He wants to know what I feel is the number one thing a woman in business can do to succeed in today's world.
Oh boy, loaded Tony.
Oh yeah, and it's a great question.
Tony, so Rita, Tony
Mhm.
is the question asker guy. So if everybody should follow Tony on Facebook because he just asks questions. It's like, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. That curiosity is perfect. A woman can take whatever 5 minutes, 15 minutes she has per day left over and start investing it in her own mental and emotional health. And what happens is once you start investing in taking the time to smell something that's wonderful, that's blooming, when you take a few minutes to notice how good it feels to walk and how your hips move, when you take 5 minutes and have that joyful mindfulness practice, you start to crave more. And then you start to tell everybody to get the fuck away from you until you get more and more. You hold better boundaries. You hold the right boundaries. You start saying more of the right thing because you're going from being in a place of, oh no, how am I going to figure this out, to a place of, I've got this. So whenever we pause, and when we are the most triggered is actually the greatest opportunity for healing. So when we choose to pause in the moment before we do something and get ourselves centered again through breath work or looking out of a window, or smells are very quick because they're a shortcut to the amygdala. If you pause, then your brain and your nervous system has a chance to get into a more organized thinking pattern rather than isolated in one of the four brains. And you make the right decision. You're able to see the opportunities. You're able to figure out what's going to happen. And the more you spend time in that state of flow, the more you give yourself your own loving energy, the faster we grow. And the faster for women, what's a priority is that they have more than enough for themselves and all the people that they love. So we're right now, we've been giving from a place of starvation and depleting our principle. But when we start investing in our principle, I meditate and have unstructured time. I like to have at least 3 to 4 hours a day during my work day, because that gives my brain a chance to catch up on new information that I've explored, to follow my own curiosity, to let go of any emotions or insecurities I have around something, to get my body relaxed and stretch and get it to align itself. And all of that healing yourself and getting into a good state means that you think on a higher level and you're more discerning, you make better decisions, and more interesting people are attracted to you because you're a more interesting person.
Excellent. You know, that I think that's a major lesson for all of us. And I know I work on that diligently to schedule big blocks of me time in the middle of the workday. It's kind of counterintuitive. You think, hey, we're in business. I got a 9 to 5. I've got to grind it and pound it. It's the opposite is absolutely true. You want to blow the doors off. Take a couple hours. Now, don't just slack off. So we're not talking about just slacking the day off, right? Or was it Ferris Bueller, type of thing. But, you've got to recharge your batteries. You've got to have that engaged. Okay. And that's going to affect everything, your creativity, your conversations. As we began this call, understanding that flow of energy, if you're flowing there, hang it up till you get it there.
Can I add to
Makes
that,
sense.
Donald?
Carly.
So I basically spent the summer, I wrote a book, I created a YouTube channel, I coached a client to a massive success story, and I spent my entire summer at the beach. And Donald can verify that.
Not that I was at the beach with Carly, but
But
we
he
live
can verify that. He
Yeah.
saw the pictures of me
Yeah.
at the beach pretty much every single week. So,
Oh yeah, the more time you spent at the beach, the more successful you became. And it's so I bully women, I hassle women, I bug women, I talk sense, I use every tactic that I can to get them to shift that thinking as fast as I can, because the more time you spend investing in your mental and emotional and physical health, the faster women are going to achieve at astounding rates, because we've been lied to.
right?
Oh, funny. So yeah, that's an energy that's coming. Women are like, oh no, I'm tired of doing everything. I can't do it anymore. I'm burning out, and I'm going to recharge myself. And then as a nice surprise from hitting that bottom and saying I can't do it anymore, we're like, oh look, I'm getting smarter. Oh look, I'm making better decisions. Isn't that interesting? Oh look, my back doesn't hurt as much. And I'm able to make this savvy little, negotiation with someone, and I'm not scared about it anymore. It's great stuff.
I think we
Good
should
for
start
you.
scheduling nap time for women, especially moms.
Exactly.
Like they have
Yes.
that thing, you sleep when the baby sleeps, and like, but when do I get things done? Like, you don't.
You don't.
You don't.
You take a bath.
That is the biggest thing I have to tell my postpartum moms after they have their babies. I'm like, no, you sleep right now.
Right,
Or
right,
they get to the
right.
end of their pregnancy and they're like, I'm really tired. I can't get on a call. It's like, no, you sleep.
Right,
This is
right.
your sleep time. It's fine. You don't have to get on a call with me. I'll
Yeah,
message you.
yes.
But
I'm the most
no.
compassionate person. I'm like, oh, you can't make it. It's perfectly fine. I get it. And by having that flexibility and that understanding, women are so grateful, because they're so tired of trying to fit into this mold they don't fit in and treat themselves like crap. When generally speaking, men don't have as much of a problem being nice to themselves. It
kind of a
comes
given.
easier.
Kind of a given. They just come home and they're like, so I'm going on this 2-day trip and I'll be back whenever. And then meanwhile, we're like, where's
What?
my 2-day trip?
But it's not that anyone's bad or good.
No.
It's that women are getting more comfortable saying, no, this is really important to me. And it's important enough that I'm willing to hold this boundary, and I'm willing to defend it, and I'm willing to communicate it in a way that may surprise you, but will get me what I want. Because if I don't get this, I'm going to implode. And that's where women are at. We're at this level of, come any closer, I'm going to punch you where it hurts.
That's literally how, well, I don't say it exactly like that, but I do
So-
say, look, mommy needs her nap or she's going to scream. Do you want
Well,
mommy
with
to
your
scream?
kids, yeah.
No.
I talk to, I talk
Yeah.
to women who are, coaching them on talking to their difficult relationships. No,
So
I would never
Carly-
talk to a child like that. Oh my God, I was a kindergarten teacher. I would never, ever, ever in a million billion years. That would be terrible. Would traumatize them forever.
So Carly, you're an INFJ? Tony's saying that. Is that true?
Yeah,
You-
we talked about that. I think you probably forgot because it was 2 years ago.
I forget. I'm just like
We
my
are the
brain is.
same. Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's right.
That's why we work so well together.
Got it. Got it. Eric.
Hey, thank you. Rita, this is really great. Thank you for sharing with us today. Really appreciate it. So if we have someone in our life, a woman who, I'll put it this way, burns the candle at all three ends and seems to refuse the offer of time for herself and things like that. I imagine this is other people have experienced this as well. What can I do to convince? I'm not sure what the right word is. I'm going to say convince, but I don't know if that's the right vibe.
No, because that's a power thing.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, help me.
Okay, it's no problem. You want to think about things that make her feel good, and then you want to invite her or set them up for her or help her have that experience. Don't just give the advice and leave it up to her, because if she could go to the beach all day in her mind, she absolutely would, but she doesn't have time and she's got other priorities.
Good point.
So instead, if you say, you know what, I have dinner on the beach for us, and I'm excited to spend some time with you because I know you've been busy and I really like your company. Would you mind coming and having dinner with me at the beach? I would really love it. So you have to take a more active role. What tends to happen, because I do work with men too, but what tends to happen is if you don't know what to do, you don't do anything. And that's not bad or wrong. It's just what everybody does. If I don't know what to do, I'm just going to sit back and watch and see what I need to do. But in reality, if you pause for a second and say, I wonder what would be something that would help her relax, just for draw her a bath, make a special trip to go see something that she's been wanting to see, but hasn't taken time to do it. So women on one level need permission, and we almost need permission from men, because at least in my experience and talking to a number of women, so I mean, it is a slice, we're used to feeling as if we don't deserve to take care of ourselves. And it's not because men are inherently jerks. It's because we communicate differently. And women aren't as assertive, and we weren't taught to be as assertive, to push back a little bit. And from my experience, men are like, well, I just wanted to make sure you were serious. And women are like, I told you once, that should be enough. And so it's just a difference. But if you pause, especially as men get older, they become more altruistic. So it's a natural change in thinking, and women become more entrepreneurial. It's just a natural shift that happens. And the more you step into seeing how you can assist, how you can help love them and help them love themselves, the better. Advice giving is just like, gee, thanks. I appreciate that, but that's not much help. But actually saying, you know what, I've noticed you've been really stressed. I'd love us to do something together. Would you like to go to the museum, or is there something else you might like to do? Men tend to be okay and comfortable scheduling all sorts of playtime for themselves, and women don't. But they also don't want to go and do the things that you're necessarily doing. They aren't interested in the same things. And so finding something you can do together that you're sincerely interested in, that lights you up, that lights them up, that's what, once you get a taste of feeling good, you don't stop. You're like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel. We're supposed to be in a state of flow at least 80% of the time. We're only supposed to be lifting cars off of children less than 20% of the time. The rest, we're supposed to be in this state of mind-body connection, of laughter, of good conversations, of poetry and art and nature, because that's what that's what will be women's genius. When they start nourishing themselves, they're going to produce apples for everybody. Because that's just what happens. Women, when you invest in women, they tend to come back to the communities and give back to the communities, versus men tend to, be on a different path. Women tend to, you invest in them, the communities get better because we're thinking about the whole more often, just because that's how we think.
And,
Is that
and so
helpful?
for all,
Yeah.
all you marketing minds out there, is this kind of making sense how you want to kind of encompass that in your messaging, in your tone, in your energy as you're reaching, even if it's just writing email copy? Does that kind of resonate with you? It's like, okay, it's a little bit different. And if you're wondering why something's working or not working, or you're attracting or not attracting with a Facebook ad or a direct reach out or a conversation, it's right here. So I know us guys, we all need to learn this a lot better. Probably some of you women have been so inundated with male driven marketing trainings that this part of it hasn't come out. Okay, so that's the point for this. I want you to really pay attention there. Digi in downtown Nigeria, how's it going, my friend?
Very well, thank you, Donald. Thank you very, very well. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Say it again.
All right, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can. Yes,
All right.
but
I
except
can
I
drop
couldn't at that moment. My ears went sideways, but yeah, we
All
hear
right.
you loud and clear.
I dropped a question earlier on. I'm saying, how do you draw the line between time for self-care and an addiction seeking for entertainment or distraction? How do you draw the line for them?
Well, the rule of thumb is if it makes you feel legitimately good and nourished, then it's the right thing to do. If it just gives you an endorphin high, then it's just continuing to feed a stress pattern. So if somebody doesn't know the difference, the smartest thing is to stop, to go for a walk outside, to reconnect with something larger than yourself, and then ask the question, is this thing that I'm doing or this thing that they're doing for their highest good? Or is it a way to numb whatever pain that they're going through? And as a man supporting a woman, a woman is very capable of handling her own pain. She just needs a little bit of support so that she can do the work on herself. And so when you give that little bit of stability, that little bit of support, women will naturally gravitate towards nourishing, life-giving activities versus things which numb their pain. So women will naturally want to heal themselves. They just haven't given themselves the opportunity, nor has those opportunities been impressed upon them, how important it is to engage with them, how important it is to make it the normal in your life versus there's nothing left and I have to do it at 3 a.m. because that's when my work is done. That's bullshit.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good stuff, Digi. Thank you. Cool. Okay, guys, good value here today. Is worth your time on a Thursday. Okay, we're not wearing this out. Okay. I don't want you guys to come on Thursday and then we wear this out. Okay. Make sense?